Hello and welcome back to Lab 52, a Dynasty football podcast. I'm one of your hosts, the Tecmo Weave, joined by my co-host Weapon X. And as we always like to mention, some of our kind of side information here. If you want to visit our website, that's lab52dynastyfootball.com. You can check us out on Fantasy Pros if you want to check out some of our in-season rankings. Or go to our website and feel free to leave us a comment or rate our show on Spotify. We always appreciate all of that stuff. We had a bye week last week. We're Lab 52, but now we're Lab 51. What happened?
Lab 51. Yeah, I think it's a good way to put it. Now, just the busyness of life. Sometimes you just have to take a step back one week and refresh this week. That's just pretty much what it is. Sometimes I know Lab 52 is a weekly podcast, but we'll make up for it with this week.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we had talked about how everybody's in redraft mindset. Of course, Derrick Henry's worth a first round pick, right? Of course he is, because he's going to help you win right now. Matthew Stafford, give a first plus. He's the MVP. He's going to help you win right now. So we're going to put on that type of thinking cap and lens for today's show. Maybe not talking about trades specifically, but more of a redraft focus. And today's show is a league specific show, which, while it is related to a league you run, what's it called? Elite Primetime. And it has the same setup that we talk about weekly, Superflex, PPR. I do not believe there is a tight end premium in this league, but it's a start 10. Is that correct, Weapon X?
That's correct. Yeah, start 10, just like all the other leagues we discuss on a regular basis. It just doesn't have tight end premium, just normal PPR for tight ends.
Okay, excellent. And this is a dynasty league, but we're just doing a preseason preview of this league. For folks that aren't in this league, I do think that a lot of this, the things we're going to be saying, are universal. That does it really matter if certain team has certain player? No, it doesn't. It might matter to the listeners of that league, certainly, but our commentary, I'd like to think will equate to what's happening in other leagues. So I think we'll just get into it. This is for Elite Primetime. This is a year one startup that I'm in this league as well. We did this, what was it, in about April? And it's on the Sleeper app. And I've primarily used my fantasy league. How are you liking using the Sleeper app to run this league versus my fantasy league, which the Lab 52 league is on?
Yeah, I think Sleeper makes it pretty simple. The app is really smooth. You can do a lot on it. You can manage it pretty quick. So if you're someone that likes to manage things quickly on the go, Sleeper is definitely a really good platform to use for that. I know my fantasy league is more of a desktop type platform when you want to run it as a commissioner. But yeah, I think Sleeper is a good app, and it's becoming increasingly popular as I've noticed in the last few years.
Okay, well, we'll jump into it here, and we're using the Fantasy Pros. If you happen to subscribe to their subscription for league services and different drafting tools and trading tools, I think it's a lot of fun. It's something I certainly almost seem to use on a daily basis, and it's live year round. One aspect they do have that isn't live year round, but it's certainly live now and in the summertime. Once the schedules are set, is the league analyzer, which projects out your record and your playoff chances. So we're going to use this somewhat as a reference and comment on each team and hopefully get through all 12 teams in roughly an hour. So starting at we're going to start from worst to best. We're starting at 12 and we're going to work our way up. At the bottom of the barrel here, we have Hoka's, named after the shoe. Yeah, I didn't even know that was a shoe for a while, but now once I learned, I see them everywhere. Hoka's is predicted to finish last at 2-12. And when you look at his team, of course, you can kind of see why. You don't end up with 5 first round picks. Yep, it's 5. And then how many second round picks does he have here? 1, 2, 3, and then another 2/3, and then 2/4. So he has all these first round picks, and he has some very decent first round picks. He has a first round pick from me, from another team that we're going to talk about coming up after his. So he's kind of locked in some of the high end picks, and we know how everybody feels about Jeremiah Smith. Um, it would just be kind of crazy if that doesn't pan out like everyone thinks it's going to. Marvin Harrison, he was a can't miss prospect. Now there's a lot of questioning. Have you been seeing that in some of the training camp, or people putting up these like blooper reels of him dropping
Yeah,
passes,
yeah,
saying he doesn't care about it, he's too soft, he grew up rich. I don't know. I mean, it feels like if his name wasn't Marvin Harrison Jr., we wouldn't be acting like this.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of talk now about Michael Wilson this training camp, and the news hasn't been too positive overall about Marvin Harrison. But when we get to the games, we're going to really see the game plan, and we're really going to see what the coaching staff really thinks about these two receivers here as far as who they want to feature the most. It's going to be interesting to see. They still got Jacoby Brissett. It's going to be another team. It's just another season for Arizona that could be, good for fantasy, but terrible for real life because they're just not a good team, and there's going to be a lot of opportunity to score points. It's just, yeah. I mean, the targets should be there. It's just a matter of what he's going to do with it. He's got to stay on the field too.
That's true. That's true. And when you look at any of the receivers, okay, he's had Jacoby Brissett and Kyler Murray. He may be somebody, and I've seen people mention this, that a change of scenery might do him some good. Not no, not to Carolina. We don't want him going there. We don't want him going to Miami. But if he were to go somewhere else where there's just kind of an average grade quarterback, it might really improve his stock considerably. But that's a story for another day. We're going to focus on Hokas here. And, we don't get all those picks during a startup by having a ton of talent, but he was able to retain a handful of good players. Um, at quarterback, he actually has 3 quarterbacks, which is quite interesting, especially if Malik Willis does more than nothing. I mean, that's what I've been trumpeting the whole off season. Um, he's kind of a waste to own in Dynasty. He truly is just for a win now team that maybe you need that bye week starter so you can secure a better playoff spot. You can weather your bye weeks. He doesn't seem to be set up to succeed. Um, his play history doesn't speak to a player that, oh man, he's just really lit it up. No, in a handful of games, he ran the ball. He definitely speaks to being a bridge quarterback. But in addition to Malik Willis, he has Jaden Daniels and Cam Ward. I mean, that's a rock solid um, dynasty core. If I was picking 2 quarterbacks to start in a just regular snake draft, I'd be happy to come away with Jaden Daniels and Cam Ward. So I think that's pretty impressive that he has both of them. I'll let you take it on for his running backs, which maybe aren't as impressive as the quarterbacks.
Yeah, he did acquire Blake Corum in a trade with you. If you wanted to talk about that a little bit, he's got Blake Corum, he's got Bashaw Tootin, Jordan from the Texans, he's got Mike Davis. Is it Mike Davis from Dallas?
I don't know. I mean,
That's a
it's an
good one.
M. It's an I don't know. It's an
that's
M.
actually
Davis.
that's
It's
actually good.
Malik Davis.
Yeah, Malik Davis.
Yeah,
Sorry about that. I thought it was Mike Davis from it's a Malik Davis from Dallas, 4th-year player from Florida. He's got him. Again, this is a team who's predicted to finish last in the league, and he even said in our league chat that he looked at his roster, he looked at other rosters, and said, you know what, this is probably not going to be a season I compete. So he made the trades to acquire those first round picks, and he's setting himself up really well for a 2 to 3 year window beyond this year. He's got Corum and Tootin are decent running backs to have on your roster if you're a rebuilding type team. He's got He's got Ty Johnson, Malik Washington. So he's got a bunch of handcuff type running backs, DeMarcado, Martinez from Green Bay, and Larison from New England. A lot of obviously these guys aren't going to produce for him. And for his team, a team that's building towards next year, building towards 2028, that's what you're gonna want if you want to have those high draft picks. He's got 5 first rounders. In all likelihood, he's going to end up next year having a much more rounded out roster, especially if he hits on 2 or 3 of these rookie players. He's going to be in a better position at running back, at receiver. But right now, that's the running back core. It's not a running back core that's going to produce many results. He's got Chris Rodriguez, so he does have the Jacksonville backfield. He's got some insulation there, but a lot of the running backs he has, younger guys, handcuff type running backs, they don't have a workhorse role. None of that right now. So that's his core. It's nothing. Obviously, it's not going to be a competitive running back core, but he does have a couple pieces here that, if they do play well this year, they could be good pieces for his future.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hope to have some upside players, and to have Corum that he's one injury away from getting all the work, or maybe at worst he's somewhere around 50%. I still feel like that's a bit overblown, and I'll kick that back to you in a moment here. Kind of your feelings on Kyron Williams, and when we hear about, it just seems like through the off season it became, well, he's gonna get about 70%. Well, last year it was closer to 50. Well, okay, well now, it seems like everyone in the Dynasty community assumes it's gonna be a 50-50 split. And I don't know. I just don't see it. Like, Blake Corum is still the backup running back. And unless something happens, I don't see Kyron Williams just losing his job. Um, Hoka's also, when we look at his wide receiver core here, he's got Egbuka, which is the main wide receiver on this team. And at tight end, he's got Isaiah Likely and a bunch of rookies here. So no, I like the core of the team, where you got Corum and Tootin and Egbuka and Jaden Daniels and Cam Ward. Those are that's a nice solid core to build around, and then you add a bunch of picks and you hope somebody gets rookie fever. Um, Brighter days are ahead for this team. Maybe not immediately next year, but by year 3, if he plays his card right, and maybe some good fortunes fall his way, maybe Kyron Williams leaves and they just run with Blake Corum. Who knows? Or injury? I don't know. Um, yeah, no, there's good things, and you can see there's a direction here, and that's all we can really hope for from
Yeah.
teams. But yeah, what do you think about Kyron Williams and Blake Corum? I mean, do you think that's real?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be silly to think that Kyron Williams is just going to fade away. He's been such a consistent runner. The Rams really love the way he runs the ball, his running style. Blake Corum will be involved. Nobody's questioning that. And I did see that Kyron Williams is expected to be involved more in the passing game. He is the passing downs back, so he still has that role. That's not anything to worry about if you're a Kyron Williams manager. What I really think, though, is that if you look at the Rams, they're set up to be an absolute dominant defensive team. And that could maybe increase the running game, increase some carries overall, game by game. So maybe Corum gets more carries every game because they're running the ball more. So he may have a similar amount of touches that he did last year, and you're going to still feel pretty good about it. He could be a potential flex for you sometimes. And obviously one of the more valuable handcuffs to have in fantasy football. But I still think Kyron Williams is clearly the lead back. And I think he's going to get enough work to still be able to produce as he has. Low end RB1, high end RB2 numbers. He can do that in this offense. There's going to be tremendous amount of scoring opportunities. And again, with their defense being projected to be very strong, I think there's a lot of work to be had for both, and that's not a problem at all.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I agree with that. Well, for time's sake, we'll move into our number 11 team, Steel Nuts. Steel Nuts is in a number of leagues with us, and in this league, it's saying he's going to come in second to last. Bad news for him is he does not have his first round pick, but he does have his second round pick. So there was some level of confidence um, in trading that away. I'd have to look back to see the specific trade he made to do that, but I want to say it surrounded Zach Charbonnet. That he's a Charbonnet fan, and now with Jadarian Price, um, and our draft. I mean that took place before the NFL draft, didn't it?
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
didn't our yeah,
mhm,
no, so that's kinda some of those warning signs where don't invest in running backs because they could be one draft
yeah,
pick away from losing their job.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
if you look, yeah, I agree with that. You look at this team. They have Fantasy Pros has him ranked 11th. Very, I mean, I'll start it off with the quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, Leonard is backup quarterback, and then Fernando Mendoza. So obviously, that's about as strong as you're going to get at quarterback. Three really, really good options, good dynasty options. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza, we may not see anything right away, but he will get in there this year. He'll be a guy that you can use. So he's really strong, really deep at quarterback. So it bodes well for this year and the future. I think that's if you look at his overall roster, and we will go through it, that's the strong point of his team. And in the Superflex Dynasty League, there's nothing wrong with having your quarterbacks be the strong suit of your team.
no, not at all, not at all, and I mean, he's got, Williams, Love, and Mendoza. That's at least we can say just like Hoka's, he's got the quarterback position locked down. And having 3 solid quarterbacks, I mean, that's a nice core to build around. Running back, he has, the joke of our show, he has RJ Harvey. Um, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I'm glad finally the season is here, or it's almost here, that we can get enough of the speculation. It just seems to me RJ Harvey losing a grip on the job, at least as a, early down back, is it seems to me to just be so clear. But who knows? You never know with injury or just the schedule they have, how it all plays out. But we're pretty weak at running back overall. RJ Harvey, Ramondre Stevenson, and a bunch of backup guys, including Charbonnet. I don't know. Have you heard when Charbonnet is supposed to be back?
I've not heard yet. I haven't heard a straight up time frame yet. There's been, early in their off season, there was a bunch of back and forth as far as when he'll return. Some pessimistic, some not so, not as pessimistic. But right now, I'm looking here. It says a week one return could be a close call. So to me, that says we're looking at a potential 4 week absence to begin the year. That's what I would say, and I think it makes sense. You can ease in the rookie running back here. You can have him be the main guy. Obviously, right out the bat, it's a first round pick, so obviously you want to give him the work. And then Zach Charbonnet at some point is going to be able to start to integrate himself into the offense. So with it saying it's close to being a week one, I don't envision he'll be ready in week one. But hey, then we still have about 4 weeks to go. Anything can happen if he gets out there in a preseason game, which I highly doubt it. But if he does, then that would bode well for week one.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would tend to agree. I think that's just coach speak so people don't do a game plan. I know he might be back, but yeah, no, he may also not be back.
Yeah.
Um, at a wide receiver, to me, it seems like I don't know. If you're, I guess it depends how confident you are that your team is going to be able to weather the storm of not really having any sort of meaningful running backs. Because wide receiver isn't too bad. Off the jump here, we got Justin Jefferson, Waddle, and Christian Watson. Now, I guess it depends how much you care about Christian Watson and care about his injury history. But Waddle and Jefferson, that's certainly that might be the one of the best 1-2 combos for redraft in the entire league. But we'll have to get to the other teams. Beyond those two players, I'm not sure there's a lot of depth, and that's probably what Fantasy Pros is dinging him for here. He had Ricky Pearsall, bad luck,
Yeah.
Ricky Pearsall. Um,
Yeah, it's tough.
and Tank Dell. Maybe there's a guy who's had some bad luck, but I did see he's practicing in pads now. That would certainly be impressive if he came back and had any sort of meaningful impact on the Texans, because from a dynasty's perspective, man, Tank Dell was left for dead. He was the talk of the town right at first. When he came out his rookie year, he shot up in value. People were sending out first round picks. He looked like he had a special connection with CJ Stroud, and then boom, that was all gone. Um, and yeah, no, it's pretty crazy how things can flip like that, and how people are just nobody even wanted Tank Dell on the teams I had him in. But it still seems his path to relevance after they drafted the two Iowa State wide receivers last year, Higgins and Knoll. It just feels like it's going to be hard. But I would maybe time, that connection, maybe that'll win out. And then at tight end, he's got Sam Laporta, which I think that's fine for Dynasty. Is he going to be, an explosive? To me, he feels like a middle of the road, tight end 6 to 8. What's he going to score on the year? I just that one rookie year he had, it seems like that's so far in the rearview mirror. And when you have Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, it's like somebody's got to be left out, and it tends to be Laporta or Jameson Williams. So I guess I can see why they're down on this team. There's some good pieces,
Yeah.
but it's sad that they don't have their first round pick.
Yeah, they definitely have some good pieces on this team. I think if his receiver core does hit, he's going to compete. He's going to win some games. This isn't the worst team I've seen. Obviously, I've seen much worse than this, and in a lot of other leagues. So they have him ranked 11th. I could see him. I could definitely see him getting in a position where he's higher than that. I mean, I could see him finishing better than 11th. I think Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, his injury doesn't seem concerning. He should be good to go. Christian Watson, obviously, he's an X factor on this roster here. Jalen McMillan, we'll see how he is. Should be the number 2 this year in Tampa. So we'll see if he can produce for him. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's not a bad roster. But like you said, the first round pick, not having that's tough for the future. But yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a horrible team, and I do think this is a team that could definitely knock off some other teams throughout the season for sure.
Oh, absolutely. You have a couple good quarterback weeks. You hit the bye weeks the right way. They're going to win a few games,
Yeah,
but I certainly wouldn't imagine it to be a playoff team. Certainly, I guess unless we go back to the zero RB strategy, and that becomes prominent. But that certainly hasn't been kind of the fantasy take from at least all the information that I read. That it's all kind of back into the running backs now. It's just a question of picking who and having the correct amount of depth, and depth is lacking on this team, and it doesn't have any running backs. So, I mean, I think those are the two biggest knocks. But let's
yeah,
move on to team number 10. A special guest star, friend of the show, Amaro Starr. He has the second most draft picks in this league at first round picks, at least at 4. He also made some trades. Just looking at where some of these picks fall, I wouldn't say outside of his own that they're as premium as the ones Hoka has. But having 4 first round picks, you never know what somebody's going to trade for them. And when you're getting 4 first round picks or 5, whatever it's going to be, you had to lose some talent, but he still retained some great players. At quarterback, he has Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray. And just like Steel Nuts, it seems like the position he was kind of just going for the handcuffs and seeing who's going to stick. Rico Dowdle, Alvin Kamara, DJ Giddens, Jonathan Brooks. Maybe we'll talk about Jonathan Brooks, man. He seems to be a hot topic on most Dynasty YouTube content I see. But we called that one a long time ago. We called a lot of this a long time ago. Jonathan Brooks, no one else really notable outside of the ones I've already mentioned. Wide receiver, not too bad. Nico Collins, Travis Hunter, Roma Dunze. I guess I think maybe that's a more interesting question. What have you been hearing about Luther Burns' injury? Like, it was a groin injury. Now he's going to be out a month. Boy, that puts kind of a rain cloud over all the Burden hunt.
yeah. The Luther Burden injury is really unfortunate. Obviously, one of the more hyped up players this offseason, and rightfully so. Early on in training camp, you see some of the explosive moves he was making against his teammates. So yeah, when we saw the injury news, didn't really hear much of an update. As day went on, there wasn't really anything, and then the next day we saw it was a groin injury. But they didn't sound too concerned really about it. Said he might miss a little bit of time, and then now today, the newest update is he's going to miss the remainder of the preseason. He's not going to play in the preseason at all, and that's tough. Not because we don't think he'll be ready for the season, but it's just the chemistry that he was going to continue to build this training camp and preseason games. That was important for a guy who's already in a crowded receiver room. You mentioned Rome Dunze, obviously Colston Loveland. They got a good running game, so obviously he needed to continue to build that. Doesn't mean he's not going to be able to do that. It's just now he's going to be a little step behind now. Yeah, it's a tough injury, but hopefully he's able to rest up. Good thing it happened now, though, in football terms, because he could be ready for the season and be ready to go instead of missing 4 regular season games or 5. That would have been much worse than what it is now. But yeah, for him and his chemistry building with Caleb Williams, it is definitely tough.
It is. It is. Well, thankfully for Amaro, he also has Colston Loveland, so that's a bright spot. He's got Chigo Conco. We're finally hoping he's gonna do something now that that I guess the dynasty community, we've always held out hope for Chig. And now he finally has kind of a competent offensive system. And he also has Marvin Harrison. We already kind of talked about him. I mean, do you kind of agree with what we talked a little bit earlier that it seems like maybe the vultures, they're just circling right now for him. We like to build people up to tear them down, and
Yeah.
him kind of being the nepo baby of Marvin Harrison. Um, people want to be proven right that, but I just don't think all that college domination. Um, that doesn't just disappear.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think Marvin Harrison. I don't think it's going to be a question of whether or not he's going to see enough work. He's going to see enough work. It's just, will he stay on the field? That's been the issue recently. I think the talent's still there, but we talked about him time and time again this offseason. He really needs to have a big year this year, because this is, if he struggles this year and another down year, his dynasty value tanks. It just really does. But I think when you look at Marvin Starr's team here, he's got depth at receiver. He's got Nico Collins, got Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, and Marvin Harrison that we just mentioned. That's not. I mean, those are receivers that should see a healthy amount of targets. Roma Dunze, I think he's still a guy who Chicago values heavily. I think he's gonna have a pretty solid season. Obviously, it's a crowded room there, but I think he has a chance to really take a step forward this year. You look at Amari Starr's team. Obviously, he is planning to, build his roster for next year and the following year after that with the 4 first-round picks here. He traded Jalen Hurts to you in a trade that just happened recently. So obviously, he knows right now his roster may not be ready to compete right now. But again, similar to Hokas, it's a team that has some core pieces that you can definitely build around. And in a couple years, if he hits on these rookie picks, or if he trades some of these picks and gets some valuable assets in these trades, you could be looking at a much different team next year. But yeah, it's going to be tough to compete right now with the lack of running back depth. Obviously, if an injury happens here or there, he's going to look like he's going to be pretty strong with running backs, because he's got a lot of the number twos, on the teams that they're on. But overall, not a bad team. Really not a bad team. The direction obviously is clear. We know what his direction is, but it's a team that can still win some games. Especially, like I said, the receiver core is very deep, and I think if he hits on some rookie receivers next year too, he's going to have a really good receiver room in this dynasty league.
yeah. Team has direction. I guess the one glaring thing that I see here, if you got all these picks and you kind of know I'm not going to make the playoffs, like DJ Moore would be the first person I would be shopping around.
Yeah,
Certainly there's a lot of hype, at least at the moment, stuff I've been reading. He's building a great connection with Josh Allen. It's his best
yeah,
quarterback. Best wide receiver since Stephon Diggs in his prime. And that could very well play out to be true. It could be true that, he seems to be the most undervalued, or certainly one of the most undervalued clear wide receiver ones with an all-pro quarterback that's available in Dynasty for not a high price.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Yeah, I think Amari does have the luxury of waiting a little bit, to see how his team looks in the first few weeks, and he's still going to be able to get something for DJ Moore if DJ Moore starts out well. It's not like he's desperate for first round picks right now, so he does have the luxury to wait a little bit. But yeah, obviously, if his team struggles, DJ Moore wouldn't fit his team construction. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's a roster that has some good pieces. It's just missing that one guy, and I know he knows who we're talking about. But that's all I'm going to say about that.
that's right. Well, we'll move on to the number 9 team. It's called My Girlfriend. There's actually some Roman numerals after it. It's 22. I still wonder. I still wonder. This is an aside here. I've always been a big fan of that show, To Catch a Predator, and where they set up the people, and then they're like, "Hey, do you want to come over? Bring me this or bring me that," and they're like, "Oh, sure. I don't care if you're underage." And then Chris Hansen pops out, um, and they just eviscerate them with their chat log.
Yeah,
Um, there was one of the predators in there where he gets all flustered, and they're like, "Well, what's her name?" And he's like, "22." Well, no, no, no. I mean, she said she was 22, so that's kind of the joke with him that my girlfriend, her name is 22. So I always wonder if somehow this player is a fan of that show. And
yeah,
strangely enough, they're coming out with a movie about it, like a theatrical release with Robert Pattinson later this year, and it's called Predator. But it seems to almost make Chris Hansen the bad guy when it's like, really, not the people coming to meet the kids.
how are you
It's
going to make
Chris.
Chris Hansen the bad guy? Chris Hansen's the man.
That's right. Like, how are you going to somehow make him the bad guy?
No way.
But that was just my take from the trailer. That like they tried to make it seem like, well, he got caught up in it, and that they're doing all this stuff, and like, well, yeah, there is a trade-off. He's doing a show that people want, um because socially we like to see bad things happen to people that are bad, that that's what the public wants, right? And you hope to see good things happen to people that are good.
Yep.
Um, but you see people preying on kids, and you're like, well, yeah, I want them to be, embarrassed on TV and go to jail. But the movie, it's a fictionalized take on what happened, but that's way outside the scope of our show. So I do wonder if My Girlfriend 22 is somehow related to Catch a Predator.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll have to see if he does listen. If he is listening, maybe he can let us know. Yeah, I'm not. I always wondered too. I wasn't sure what the name was, if it had some meaning behind it, but I guess he'll let us know if he does, if he is listening.
maybe.
Yeah,
Well, this team, I guess it's kind of like a stagnant team. It feels like a stagnant team. They kept their picks. They have a first. They got a couple seconds. I got 3 seconds. Okay, it's pretty decent. And a fourth. I know I tried earlier in the offseason to pull a Rye away his first round pick, and it just would not work. No, never. Um, so we'll start at the top, though. We got Jared Goff. That's a nice, solid, at least in terms of fantasy. Like, seems like for the value, the cost of Jared Goff, he's going to far outproduce what he costs on your team. And he's not just a game or two or a year away from retiring like Matthew Stafford. Um, but he's got Jared Goff. He's got Bryce Young. And then he's got Shadur Sanders. I wouldn't put any value on the Cleveland quarterbacks this year. I mean, it's hard to know. Is it going to be Deshaun Watson? Is it going to be Shadur Sanders? When the reality is, it's probably not going to be any of them. They're just a version of Malik Willis, just a placeholder. But you do have Jared Goff and you got Bryce Young, so at least you can compete. Then you got Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery, Jeremiah Love. Like, this team doesn't sound too bad at this point. Um, Rolling on down to the wide receivers, Malik Neighbors, Devontae Smith. QJ, Alec Pierce, Antonio Williams. That's not too bad. And then at tight end, probably maybe his weakest spot here, you got George Kittle, Travis Kelsey. So no, I mean this maybe Fantasy Pros is being a little too hard on this team. What do you think?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. As you're reading the players off on this roster, I would say this would be the one so far that I would disagree with the Fantasy Pros ranking. I don't think this is that bad of a team. I think it's a pretty solid team actually. Like you mentioned, Jared Goff. I'm fine with him as a QB1 on anybody. I mean, he's putting up solid numbers. Obviously, he's not going to be the high end top 5 quarterback, but he can have weeks like that. Bryce Young as a QB2 in Superflex. Obviously, it's not the strongest, but you look at the team here. He's got Jeremiah Love. Obviously, he was a first round pick, the 101 in the rookie draft. Jonathan Taylor, as strong a running back as you're going to get in the NFL. And David Montgomery, if he's your flex, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. And then Neighbors, obviously, if he all the reports are looking really positive for him. Devontae Smith, his chance to be the number 1 receiver in Philly. Alec Pierce, he's got depth. QJ, yeah, you mentioned the players as you were reading the players off here. I think this team could be decent. They could be decent, and he still has his first round pick. So yeah, I think Fantasy Pros is. I'm trying to maybe the quarterbacks. Maybe that's why with Bryce Young being probably he's probably ranked 25, 26 on Fantasy Pros, something like that.
yeah, like
Yeah,
barely even a QB2 at that. Yeah.
So that could be part of the reason why his overall is going down there. But you look at it, I mean, George Kittle, yeah, if he's not healthy right off the bat, you still got Travis Kelsey. He's not elite anymore, but he's passable, as a tight end right now, waiting for a guy like Kittle to be back to himself. It's not a bad team. This is not a bad team at all. I think it could be a team that I'd be very surprised to see them finish as low as what Fantasy Pros has them at.
Yeah, I mean, I would think from a dynasty perspective, I think it's a little bit more clear that the wheels could fall off of this,
Yeah.
and it's an odd mix of players. That okay, if Bryce Young, this is his last year in Carolina, he has a bad year, and they replace him, the Shadur Sanders, that experiment doesn't work out. David Montgomery, there's a lot of hype about him, but maybe he's just kind of at that washed up zone. Okay, you still got Jonathan Taylor and Jeremiah Love. Great. And Malik Neighbors, Devontae Smith. Alec Pierce is as an actual number 1 that no, I've never believed that was going to be the case. And what if it doesn't play out? QJ finds his way to a different team and just takes the money. And then you got two guys, injury plagued George Kittle and Travis Kelsey retiring. So all of a sudden you have all these core pieces and you don't have enough draft picks to replace them. But for this year, I agree with you. Things maybe aren't this bad. But it certainly is a team that, the Fantasy Pros, they only say they have a 6% chance at making the playoffs. So where the previous 3 teams, it was less than 1%.
Yeah.
Hoka's, Steel Nuts, and Morrow Star, less than 1%. So maybe collectively they have a 1% chance of winning.
Yeah.
But I agree that there could be some flexibility in this. And also too, with this ranking program, I've used it for a few years. They have no problem once the winds start to blow a different way, all of a sudden their rankings change. They have no problem with that. Oh yeah, you're doing better. Did we say 6%? We really meant 46%.
Yeah.
No, it has no backbone. So, but yeah, why don't we move on to my team here? Has me at I guess number 8. And that's a product of maybe not having a direction and sticking with it. I did the startup and I just, drafted back and took all the draft picks and I was going to wait till next year. And then I went and kind of selectively picked players, but maybe lost value in the shuffle here and there because I got caught up in wanting certain players. And now I don't have any of my picks for next year, and I have a team that they're saying is going to finish in 7th place or 8th place, I guess. But maybe there's some wiggle room for that. I'll let you talk about it because I know my own team.
Yeah, I would say this could be one of the first teams that I've ever seen to have 8 first round picks at one point, and then before the season even starts, not have any more, not have a single first rounder. So obviously, like you mentioned, you had a direction, but we all know the Tech Weave, and he does not like to lose. So I think he looked at his team and said, you know what? Let's see what I can accumulate with these first rounders. And you know what? You got Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud, Tua, Davis Mills. You know, you got some backup quarterbacks there, and you also got Aaron Rodgers. So you do have 3 quarterbacks that are startable this year. You did acquire Jalen Hurts in a trade. Obviously, that's a really high end quarterback to have on your roster. Running backs: Ashton Genty, Brees Hall, Travion Henderson. Really good core running backs there that you acquired through the picks that you were trading. Each running back, young, and they all have tremendous upside. Travion Henderson is the only one of those 3 that doesn't have a clear lead back role, but that could change. That could definitely change. We saw what he can do when Ramondre Stevenson did miss time. We saw what he can do. We saw the explosive plays he can make, obviously at Ohio State and then in New England last year. So I would imagine he's going to get more run this year than he did last year when Stevenson's on the field. So if he's your RB3, no issue there at all. Brees Hall, Ashton Genty. I think Genty's got a chance to have a season where he goes from back end first round startup pick, early second round, to now you're talking about a conversation with Ashton Genty now entering the middle of the first round of startups if he has a year that I believe he can have. So that's a strong running back core. It really is. And then your receiver core here, obviously, unfortunately, Luther Burden with the injury, but we don't expect him to be missing the season or anything. It's just we'll see how he does as the season, as it picks up. We'll see how he looks. Carnell Tate, yeah, obviously a highly touted rookie pick there. And Mekhi Lemon. So you got 2 rookie receivers that were both. I think you took them to number 2, Carnell Tate, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you got Mekhi Lemon at 4.
I think Tate fell. Tate fell a little bit
Oh, Tate
further
did
than
fall.
that. Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Correct.
He
Tate fell.
fell.
You're right. Tate fell. So that you were able to get Tate and Lemon in the first round, and I know you were very happy about that. It's a good core to build your receiver core around with Luther Burden. You got a young core. Obviously, production is the question mark. We'll see. I'm not sure you're expecting them to produce as high end receivers right off the bat, but they have outstanding value. So that's a good receiver core to have there, dynasty wise. They got Jordan Addison. He's another guy that, Kyler Murray, if he plays well this year, Jordan Addison could have a year similar to the first couple years he had in his career, where you see him get some touchdowns and be a guy that you could start on occasion for sure. And then you have a strong tight end room with Tucker Kraft and Fannin. I really like that tight end room. You've had them from the start. I think you drafted them when you didn't have a whole lot of players on your roster. You did have tight ends, and I think those are good tight ends to build a roster around. And obviously you have flexibility there if you do want to trade a tight end. And then, yeah, that's pretty much where you got Knox and Komet. So that's your team right there. And they had the Tecmo Weave is 8th. You said 8th. Fantasy Pros has you 8th.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it could go a couple ways. I think the key for your team, it's really going to come down to that running back core. If these running backs play the way a lot of people could see them playing, they produce at a level that if each running back is producing week to week as a player that is startable every week, producing at a level where they're top 10 to 15 weekly, with your quarterbacks and your young receivers, I think you have a chance. I do think you have a chance. And the tight ends, I think you'll most likely probably be starting both of those tight ends, Kraft and Fannin, especially if Fannin is still putting up the numbers he did last year. So you do have a lot of talent on this roster. Obviously, a roster that was depleted, early on in the offseason because you had a direction of, building towards 2027. But no, you're one of those teams. I believe it's right on the border. You're right on the border of the playoffs. It's not a lock by any means, but it's also not out of the realm of possibility that you can creep in to that postseason. But I think I would say, yeah, I would say your running back core it's the X factor of this team. Again, like I said, if they produce strong numbers week in week out, you're going to have an opportunity. Some of the weaknesses that you may have could be masked if these running backs really step it up.
Well, I think that's all pretty accurate. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm asking a lot from a bunch of rookie wide receivers or, Luther Burden, a second year guy. Um, but I do like it from a dynasty perspective. But we've said it before, you don't get a prize because you have the youngest, most upside dynasty team. And that's kind of what I think, if anything, that's sort of what this team was built around, is just a bunch of, dynasty darlings. Fannin, Kraft, Burden, a couple rookies, Janty, Henderson, all of these guys, Jaden Higgins, like all these guys that are, fantasy, dynasty relevant, but maybe aren't going to blow up the box score this year. But I feel like I got a good set of players, a good set of starters going into next year.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
it's not a team sort of like, some of the hits on the team before us, the My Girlfriend 22 team, where you're going to have a lot of players age out. These players maybe hopefully have better years to come.
Yeah,
But
for
yeah,
sure.
we'll move on to the final team that is not in the playoffs here, and we've had this take a lot longer than we thought. Uh, um, is Stalker J. Stalker J here. Yeah, I want to say he has a number of like higher end players, but just maybe not a lot of depth. I think that becomes kind of the issue, maybe the knock on this team. But Fantasy Pros has them at a 54% chance of making the playoffs. So they're not even convinced that he isn't going to make the playoffs. They just think the other six teams ahead of him are better. He has Josh Allen and Jackson Dart at quarterback. That's wonderful. I think for a team like this, though, when you don't have the depth, you better hope these players don't miss time. And we can say that for any team, right? But when you've put a lot of draft capital into Josh Allen or Jackson Dart, when drafting them into a startup, you can't afford for them to miss time. Excuse me. At running back, he's got Devon Achane, Javante Williams, Aaron Jones, Hubbard. I guess we'll see how long he holds on to his job, but he could surprise everybody. And Jonathan Brooks just gets relegated to like a third down back role. Who knows? But that just doesn't seem to be likely. And then a handful of backups here. He has Tony Pollard. AJ Brown, Michael Pittman, Wandale Robinson. At one point, the number 24 dynasty ranked wide receiver for Lab 52. Matthew Golden. That's not a bad number 4, but Matthew Golden, I don't know what to make of him. I mean, that's why they play the games. I'm ready to see him play. Ready to see if all this training camp hype and now he's going to play the X position. Okay. You did awful last year, so anything will be an improvement. Trey Harris, it just seems like he's, at least situationally, he's waiting to break out. Um, and then Dejon Stribling, he has him too. I didn't even know that he had him on his team. So, when there's a door shut for Ricky Pearsall, a window opens for Dejon Stribling. So his team at least isn't too bad at a wide receiver, and then he's got Brock Bowers, Kenyon Sadiq. And are we going to expect big things from Sadiq this year? Probably not, but Brock Bowers should be the number one target earner on the Raiders. So yeah, no, I can see why they have them at a 54%. There's a lot of big names, a lot of big production here. But like any team, if you have injuries, bad things can happen.
Yeah, yeah, high end players. The depth may not be as strong at some positions, but high end players. HN, you got Javante Williams. That's a good one too, right there. You already mentioned the quarterbacks. That's about as strong as you're going to get in any dynasty league, right there. AJ Brown. I've been seeing him creep into the first round of some of these redrafts. It's wild, man. And I think as much as the improvement with his situation has happened this offseason, yeah, we really got to see what happens. I think, but yeah, again, AJ Brown, Would I take him in the first round of a redraft? Probably not, but I think second round is definitely in play for him, and that's a wide receiver one for his team. Obviously, Pittman and Robinson, those guys may not produce at the level you need to compete, for a championship. But with the high end players he has on his roster, at tight end, at quarterback, at running back, I think you could do okay with this receiver core that he has. Yeah, I really think this is, Fantasy Pros has him at number 7. I think this is a team that can get in. This is a team that can get in the playoffs. It's going to be very close. Obviously, Fantasy Pros thinks they can get in too with the 54% chance. So yeah, I think that Fantasy Pros has it right. They're right there. They're a borderline playoff team. And if the high end players on his team play the way that we know they can play, it's going to be a competitive team. I really think so.
All right. Well, now we're breaking into the top 6, and the reality is any of these teams could get flip flopped around. But Dub City, also known as the Dennis system from what's that? Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I guess that's a running joke on that show, or episodic joke from one specific episode. Yeah, he's got to have the 2 best quarterbacks here, Drake May and Justin Herbert. For Dynasty, at least, I really like that. And who isn't excited about, Justin Herbert with Mike McDaniels? We've covered that all off season. We don't need to beat that into the ground. Ty Simpson, he picked him up in the rookie draft, and he has Geno Smith. So okay, and Jacoby Brissett. I'm satisfied with QB here. At running back, maybe this is his weakness. He's got Josh Jacobs, who still is kind of dancing around the legal situation. I mean, I'm assuming at this point it's not just gonna, pop out from behind a tree. Oh, you're gonna miss the time. I mean, but maybe, but it seems that when Kamara and he was on video punching a guy or videotaped or audio recorded, um, whatever Jacobs is dealing with and all of his charges or allegations, that just doesn't seem like that's gonna have impact this year. But I do know analytically and statistically, videos that they've talked about him, he was in decline last year. His efficiency, all the numbers of what makes a good running back good. Josh Jacobs was on, he was not on the winning side of that. He's got Quinshon Judkins, like that. He's got Jordan James here at running back, James Conner. J.K. Dobbins, that's not a bad number 3 to have, I guess, in a startup when a lot of teams don't really have more than 3 starting running backs. Wide receiver, McConkey, Garrett Wilson, Rashee Rice. That's really nice. Michael Wilson, DK Metcalf, Omar Cooper, and Stephon Diggs. Oh, man, he got the bonus points for Stephon Diggs
Yeah.
now in Washington. That's a perfect landing spot for Stephon Diggs. That's a perfect spot, certainly for his dynasty value, for his production. It's a one-year prove-it deal. It seems like that's a easy $10 million spent well by the Washington Commanders. I mean, what else did you have? Who else were you going to throw the ball to? And maybe a little bit weaker. It's another make or break year when we talk about Marvin Harrison. It's also one for Dalton Kincaid. It's usually you're a lock to be a quality starter when you're a first round tight end. And granted, he was drafted, I think, it's like 26th in the first round. Still a first round tight end, and just hasn't stayed on the field. They don't have him out there for all the different formations. Still, spending time, watching Dawson Knox play. He does have Greg Dulcich, so he doesn't need another tight end. He has Greg Dulcich, and he has all of his picks. He didn't trade them away. To me, it's clear why this team. I mean, I didn't name any position here where you're like, oh man, it's really lacking here. And he has 3 great wide receivers. Maybe tight end's a little weak, but he can piece it together at running back. And then he definitely can cover for bye weeks in the quarterback position. I can see why Fantasy Pros has him at number 6, a 71% chance to make the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Yeah.
But still only a 2% chance of winning the championship. So there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a strong roster. I think you see the receiver core there, the high floor players he has at receiver, McConkey, Garrett Wilson, and Rice. You're going to have a steady floor of production with those three guys week in, week out. Even Michael Wilson's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised you see him put in starting lineup once in a while. Omar Cooper, I think he's got some good potential. This is a really good team, man. This is a good team. Stephon Diggs, you mentioned already. Yeah, obviously with the running back core, Jacobs, he's gonna play this year. He's gonna be the starter. He's gonna get his work. It's a little bit light at the running back, but again, you mentioned it's not many teams have three running backs that you could lock in every single week. It's hard to do that in Dynasty and in any format. So Jacobs and Junkins, and then to go with that the quarterback core there with May and Herbert. That's as good as it gets. So yeah, I can see why Fantasy Pros likes this team, and yeah, this should be a really strong contending team this year. I don't have any doubt about that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we'll move on to number 5, which is D's nuts. D's nuts. That's a good internet meme that's been going around for a long time. All the jokes about D's nuts. But he's not a joke in this league. He's number 5. And they have him at a 75% chance of winning the championship. And let's see what we think about him here. I'm going to bring him up here. Okay. He's got um, Joe Burrow and Bo Nix as his quarterbacks. And he's got the 9. J.J. McCarthy as his backup. He has also got Michael Penix. Um, yeah, who knows what happens in Atlanta? I'm hoping personally, just because I have Tua, I hope they lean Tua, and I've heard that's who's winning the early battle is Tua, but I believe Penix is coming back from an injury, so um, and I see a lot of kind of confusing news. Some saying like, "Oh, J.J. McCarthy is pushing Kyler Murray," or is that just reporters trying to make a story? I don't see how it couldn't be Kyler Murray. You still like JJ McCarthy got his chance to shine last year, and at least Kyler Murray has been productive at times in the past. But I do think he'll probably be on a somewhat short leash. Um, at running back, though, he's got Chase Brown, another dynasty darling from a lot of analysts. See him predicted as a top 10 back. James Cook, he took a swing and he took Bucky Irving and Cam Scatterbo, and neither of them got torpedoed in the draft. So sometimes when you take a risk, it works, and other times it doesn't. And in this case, I think it did. What to make of Bucky Irving? Anywhere I had him, I tried to move him. I just I can't take the risk. I don't think I saw one positive article this offseason about Bucky Irving. Did you see anything positive about him this offseason?
No, a lot of the things I've seen about Bucky Irvin had to do with the other, running backs that he has on his team. I mean, honestly, from the beginning of last year to right now, there's been a lot of narrative around him. So a lot of people don't think he can handle the load. I still think Bucky Irving is a guy who, when you have everyone thinking one thing, it could be the complete opposite. I still think Bucky Irving can be a really solid fantasy player. But I do think Kenny Gainwell has a role in that offense. There's no question about it. They didn't bring him in there just to be a backup and just play whenever Bucky Irvin doesn't play. No, he's going to have a role, and it's going to be a weekly role. But I think Bucky Irvin, especially on a roster like this, he has a strong roster. I think having him as your third running back, or maybe even fourth, depending on how Cam Scotty plays, no issue with that at all. So with the running back depth, having Bucky Irvin on his team is not hurting him at all.
No, not at all. It definitely worked out to his advantage. Has four running backs, and he also has Joe Mixon. Maybe that's a little bit of lazy roster management. You're just hoping that all the reports and he's saying, "My career is over." That really they're just blowing that all out of proportion. At wide receiver, he's got CeeDee Lamb. We've talked about that with George Pickens and who's going to be the number one. It certainly seems, I don't know, that most of the dynasty and even the redraft wins are blowing to. If you got to pick one of the two, most of them are saying pick Pickens at this point, but feels to me like it'll be one week it'll be this guy, another week it'll be that guy. They're both, top end wide receivers. Got Jamison Williams. He's an elite asset. I know I tried to trade for him with this team multiple times, and I was shot down. You think I was asking for 5 Jeremiah Smiths. No, I can't move JMO. He's the best. But I think it would be fun to see Jameson Williams. Like, really, how good is he if you put him on a different team? You
Yeah,
put him on a
yeah,
different team with a competent core. You put him in Green Bay. Well, maybe that's not a great idea either because they just pass the ball around. But a team that needs a wide receiver one, put him in. Mike Evans. Okay, maybe he doesn't play out this year. Put him in San Francisco with Brock Purdy as a true number one. And we'll see what Jameson Williams can do because sometimes he is such a playmaker, but he gets relegated into just this like big play threat type of guy. And if
yeah.
you wonder, could there be more? Um, but there's not a whole lot more on his wide receiver core. He's got Cortland Sutton, um, a bunch of Malachi Fields. Well, I guess some of my hope for him maybe dies down a bit, but that's all a question of how honest are they being about Malik Neighbors. Um, got Khalil Shakir. That's at least something. So maybe wide receiver is a bit of a downside for this team, and tight end is definitely and maybe not bad for dynasty. He's got Eli Stowers, Elijah Arroyo, um, and then Dallas Goddard, and then TJ Hawkinson. So maybe Kyler targets Hawkinson like he did McBride, and there's a career resurgence for TJ Hawkinson. I mean, I could imagine that scenario being true. Um, but I guess when I look at this team, I think Fantasy Pros is bumping them up because they really like the quarterback position. And they say, oh, Bo Nix, Joe Burrow, we really like that. That's solid, but it's no less solid than Drake May and Justin Herbert. Granted, they're only putting them 4% apart difference of playoff odds. Um, but when we break it all down here, it feels to me that the team prior to this, the Dennis system, is maybe a bit more of a complete team than D's nuts, but they're certainly very close, and I can understand why they're ranking them at number 5.
Yeah, I definitely see it. I definitely think this is a team that's going to make the playoffs. Given their players stay healthy, I don't see why they wouldn't. Chase Brown and James Cook, that's a really strong running back core to have. The volume that they're going to get and the offenses that they're in. So it's another team with high end assets. Burrow, the two running backs I just mentioned there, CD Lamb, a high end asset. Obviously, I think a guy like JMO on a team like this actually makes a lot of sense. It actually is one of them things where he's not going to be the consistent week in week out 10 to 15 points every single week, but he can have a week where he explodes. And on a roster like this, where you have a pretty good floor with the running backs and the quarterbacks, I think that could really play pretty well into this team's hands when you got JMO having a huge week. And also, I'm going to mention Chris Godwin. I have heard a lot of positive things about him this training camp. He's one of those guys that people have forgotten about. But he's still a guy that's going to have a really good role in that Tampa Bay passing game. And I think he's a guy who, if he's your third receiver and you have a strong running back core, good receivers, outside of Godwin, I think this is a sneaky player on the team. And I know you didn't mention him. I'm not sure how you feel about him, but I think Godwin is a guy. I mean, he is going to be involved in this offense. There's absolutely no reason why he wouldn't be. So I think if he stays healthy, he's gonna produce. And I think overall, it's a good team. It's a good team, definitely a playoff team in my opinion. And I think it'll be fun to see what happens.
Yeah, I think I'm just over Chris Godwin. He was overshadowed by Mike Evans, and then he had his brief window of time to shine, got injured. Now he's old from a fantasy perspective, and Egbuka's in charge. Um, yeah, not all the targets don't go to the wide receiver one. The ball will get spread around, and there will be some spike weeks. And I like to think he hasn't lost the ability to play. I mean, that's for NFL coaches and executives to decide. But from a fantasy perspective, he's certainly he's not a player on 11 teams I have now. Yeah, he's not a player I own on any single team, and it just doesn't feel to me to be a reason to acquire him. Um, But then again, there's bye weeks and throw in a couple injury. You throw in an injury to Ibuka, and he seems a lot better. Um, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. All right, number 4, we're getting into the semifinalists here. They have Bye Bye Bum. Made a trade with him, and he put it to good use to secure an extra first round pick, which means he does not have his 2027 first round pick, but he also doesn't have his second or his third or his fourth. He doesn't have any picks. He's just like my team, but at least his team is predicted to finish fourth. He's got Pat Mahomes and Sam Darnold at quarterback, which is nice, but no backup quarterback that's going to start for him. And some of the reason with my team that I decided to go for it is I tried trading with so many different teams to give them an Aaron Rodgers, to give them a Tua, to give them players that would help, and everyone just said no, 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 no. So I got to a point where I said, I'm just going to use them then. I'm just going to use them because I'm not just going to cut the player when they have some value. And so while Mahomes and Darnold, that seems pretty solid, an injury to one with no backup at all, that gets a little murky. He's got Jameer Gibbs, Travis Etienne, and Swift here at running back. I like that. That's pretty nice. And JCM, that feels like a wild card, the one that makes the most sense. And I've been seeing different media saying it is his backfield to lose. All the people beating the drum for Rashad White that he's going to be the guy, where JCM, a lot of analytics last year say he didn't play that bad statistically. He didn't play that bad. So did they give him another shot? I mean, it's quite possible Bum ends up with 4 running backs here, which is impressive for this league. At wide receiver, got Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas, George Pickens, Jaden Reed. I'm liking that. He's got Keon Coleman. He's maybe a guy that isn't happy that DJ Moore is in town. Let's see anybody else here that's of note. Not really that I would want to talk about. He's got Odell Beckham. If we turn back the clock 10 years, that's just a old school pick. Excuse me. And at tight end, he's got Kyle Pitts and Mark Andrews. When we think about the last few teams we've talked about, yeah, I think this team is getting propped up by some big names. Jameer Gibbs, Puka Nacua. The computer likes that. They like those things. And he has some okay depth in different positions. But is he 12% better, 15% better than D's Nuts or Dennis' system? I'm not sure. Granted, this is just one ranking program, so I think if we're comparing these teams, we can certainly say, yeah, I can see on a good week if Jameer Gibbs goes off and Puka Nacua goes off and George Pickens goes off. I don't know. Some of this team, though, Brian Thomas, that's, as we said earlier with Bucky Irving, sometimes you got to take the risk and sometimes it works for you. And that's going to be, I don't know, feels like a significant part of this team. How well does Brian Thomas do? Because if this doesn't play out, that he just becomes a deep threat, all of a sudden people are like, oh man, I don't know if it's going to be as much fallout that would happen to Marvin Harrison, but there will be a good amount in the Dynasty community. What do you think about Bum's team?
Yeah, I think Brian Thomas was a good guy to call out here. If he does turn this around, I mean, this is going to be a really dangerous team. I mean, Puka Nacua and George Pickens are ready as it is. That's really strong at receiver. Jaden Reed, we talked about him a couple weeks back. He could be a sleeper. He could be a sleeper this year. Someone who can put up some numbers that no one really was thinking about him. And I know when you brought him up, I was like, you know what? We should be talking about him because he's gonna have a role, and he's already shown what he can do in this league. The running back, with him, you mentioned it. He got the extra first round pick in the startup, and he did as good as you can get with that. Getting Gibbs and Nacua in the first round, building your team around those two outstanding players. Pat Mahomes, everything's looking good so far. Hopefully, he is going to be healthy for the season. He's got some good running back depth. He's got, obviously, we talked about the receivers. Kyle Pitts is going to be a solid tight end one on your team. Yeah. So yeah, this is a pretty well-rounded roster. Yeah, I think the last three teams we just talked about, they're playoff. They're just all playoff teams, playoff locks. And I think as we get closer to the end of these rankings that we're doing, you're going to see the rosters and understand why they are locks for the playoffs, given health. Obviously, health is so important for any team, as well as this team here. I think, I think it's a good team. High end assets. We talk about that. That seems like we're bringing that up more and more as we get higher in the rankings, and that's obviously common sense. They're going to have higher assets for teams that are ranked higher. So yeah, I think it's a well-rounded team, and I think absolutely a playoff team for sure.
Very good. Well, the top three teams, we're making the top three. These are the teams that Fantasy Pros seems to believe they think they are the biggest lock. They're all 95 plus playoff odd teams. But once again, Fantasy Pros doesn't. Their opinions don't have a lot of substance. They'll change these if you you have a bad week or two. But at 95% playoff lock, we have West Cannon Coyotes. Once again, this is from that movie Varsity Blues with James Vanderbeek. That must be the team in the high school. And they say this team has a 15% chance of winning the championship. Let's see if we agree. Is it really, truly that much of a lock? Has a similar problem to Bye Bye Bum in the sense he has two very decent starting quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence and Brock Purdy, but not a number three. And when you have one of these teams, like Dennis system has a third quarterback. D's Nuts maybe has one. There's other teams you could be trading for to secure that. And I think when you're looking at the bye weeks and you have a competitive team, these are the teams that should be securing a third quarterback, because to get that first round bye, that only matters for two teams in the league. And if you're one of the top three teams, you might as well put yourself in a position to succeed. But those are two nice dynasty assets to have. Trevor Lawrence and Brock Purdy, he has them both listed as being on the trading block. But I don't think all owners really know what that means. Of course you would trade them if the deal was, for something in excess of what they're worth. But I don't usually look at the trading block that way. At running back, I think here's a big piece of why Fantasy Pros likes them for redraft. Got Saquon Barkley and CMC. He also has Jadarian Price, but I don't think they care a whole lot about that. And so, that's nice for winning this year, which is what we are focusing on. He has Jonah Coleman. That's maybe a bit of a wild card. So 3 running backs, hopefully with Jadarian Price that, will be able to start every week. At wide receiver, JSN, Flowers, McLaurin, Josh Downs, and then I think he also is Casey Concepcion, Jordan Tyson. Okay, this seems to be maybe some of the strength of this team. Nice from a dynasty perspective, and also nice from a redraft perspective. Certainly be interesting to see how Josh Downs does this year. They finally set everything up. They got rid of Michael Pittman. Are they really going to use him, or is he just going to end up with 95 targets again like he has the last few years? That's something I'm excited for. And he also has, let's see here. Am I seeing this? Yeah, he has Mike Evans too. So there's another X factor. We're going to see how Mike Evans does this year. I don't know. To me, it feels like Mike Evans might be sort of washed up, but we'll have to wait and see. It's hard to say with a guy that's had a decade of 1,000-yard seasons every year to say he's finally washed up, but it happens to everybody. Tight end, it's got Brenton Strange and Dalton Schultz. That's about it. Evan Engram, boy, he his dynasty value has certainly taken a hit in the last year. But yeah, no, I mean, I can see why they like this team. Certainly when you got CMC and you got Barkley and you got all these wide receivers and you got 2 really solid quarterbacks. and you at least have some people that are noteworthy and going to start at tight end. Um, yeah, that they're confident you're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you mentioned, those two running backs there, heading into 2026, you have both those guys. Those are league winning running backs if they're out there on the field every week. It's just the production that they can put up week to week is going to give you an advantage over a lot of teams. I like the depth he has at receiver with JSN and Flowers, and then you got McLaurin, Downs, Evans. The rookie receivers there are Casey Concepcion and Jordan Tyson. So it's a really good roster. Overall roster. It's a good dynasty roster. He's got a first round pick next year. He's got my first round pick next year. So he's got a good team. He's built a good roster. Got good value on his team here, and with the quarterbacks there anchoring there at the top, I think it's a very good roster. It's a team that's going to be in contention for a championship. It's really going to come down to the two running backs. It really is. CMC and Barkley. If they are at the top of their game this year, it's going to be a really tough team to beat. And I think that was his thinking heading into the draft. Just where the players were falling there in the draft, he saw a chance to get those two high end running backs. Obviously, not long term, dynasty plays, but players that can help you win a championship right now. And I think a blend of young players and veterans, that's what this team has. And I think it's a good roster. It really is.
Yeah, and we've said it before, year 1 in a startup, that's always the easiest year to win. They're the assets are
Yeah.
the most, dispersed as they should be, and you're not gonna necessarily see a lot of massive juggernauts in year 1, so it's always a good year if you wanna go and win,
Yeah.
to take a shot year 1, and also the reality is when you make it to the semifinals, that unfortunately, that is luck. Do you have a better week than someone else does 2 weeks in a row at the end of the season? And
Yeah.
that's it. It doesn't matter what your regular season record is, just then and there does it happen. The stories are a dime a dozen of some all-star team losing to, a team that's, less valuable on paper. So who wins in the end? Sometimes it makes sense, other times it seems unfair. You just hope to make it to the semifinals and then cross your fingers. So this team should be making it there. All right, we're moving into the top two. I'll let you do a short intro on your team. You can tell us your number two. I remember as you were building your team in this league, and I had your first round pick from some trades we did. As soon as the draft was done, I'm like, this team is really good. I don't want this first. I I don't want it. I want to move it for something else. Use it for something different. Use it for a player. Give it to somebody else. Get a better deal. Upgrade from it because it seemed to me that it was a lock for the semifinals. And Fantasy Pros says you're 98% lock for the playoffs, which I think is pretty clear that this is a playoff bound team. But beyond that, we can't guess a whole lot. But yeah, what are your impressions of your team?
Yeah, I like the values I was able to get in the draft. Made a trade with you to pick up two extra fifth round picks. Was able to get my first quarterback of the draft. So that's obviously quarterback. When you go through the roster in a second, that's obviously my weakest spot. But I'm comfortable with the starters I have based on the rest of the roster. If you're strong in other places, you can afford to have middling quarterbacks if you're strong in other places. So yeah, I think this roster here definitely has a good chance to compete. I think if the players, I have younger players that haven't proven it yet. With Marion Hampton guys like that. If they do step up and they play well, the younger players in this roster, it could be the team could really do well. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'll let you cover the roster.
All right. Yeah, no, you really took it to heart and the whole like, you don't need high end quarterbacks. Like, I guess that's true. Um, but I don't know. I'm excited to see how it plays out this year. I followed your advice in one league, and I don't feel comfortable with it. I mean, I get it. I don't need Josh Allen and Drake May on every team. But is Baker Mayfield and Tyler Shuck going to be enough? Is that gonna be enough to compete with a good week when you're playing against a guy that has Joe Burrow and Bo Nix, especially in a 6-point touchdown league? where a lot of the analysts, they don't take that. It's not, for some reason, it's not a popular format at this time. Still, the 4-point touchdown is. But we'll have to wait and see. I am happy though. At least you got Deshaun Watson and you got Kirk Cousins. So in theory, you do have a number 3 for certain weeks. It's better than some of the teams we've talked about before you that have no one. They're just like, the bye week, that doesn't matter. No, it's going to matter. And Fernando Mendoza could get hurt. He could start and then get hurt, and then it's back to Kirk Cousins. Um, and I can certainly imagine or envision Cleveland flip-flopping throughout the year. You just hope the week you need Deshaun Watson, he's starting. But Baker Mayfield, yeah, and Tyler Shaw. Tyler Shaw could certainly be one of those people where you're like, oh, yeah, everyone should have bought him before, like it would be kind of like buying Jackson Dart last year. There wasn't a lot of hope for him, and no one thought he was going to be that good. Then all of a sudden, now he's a second-round startup player. You buy into Tyler Shaw, maybe he's a fourth round, third round. Who knows? It really depends on how good he is in that Kellen Moore offense. I've heard me say it before. Omarion Hampton, he's almost like one of those like guys you can't even. Well, certainly at this time of year, you can't even trade for him. Everybody's excited to see what he's going to do, and just really primed in a great situation. Offensive coordinator. Everything is lined up. The stars of a line. Kenneth Walker. We're finally getting to see Kansas City, and hoping, that what can this once great offense do with a great running back. We just hope Kenneth Walker doesn't get in any more fights with his own teammates. Have you seen that? He's getting into some
Yeah.
fights, but I get it. Maybe they're giving him a hard time,
Yeah.
saying, "You think you're
Yeah.
a big shot? You're a Super Bowl champ," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a Super Bowl champ." Uh, you got Kyron Williams. Yeah, you're somebody hoping Blake Corum doesn't step up, but I don't think it's gonna happen. NFL teams, especially the Rams, it's not a whole lot they have to change. So you got these 3 very good, and then you also have Kenneth Gainwell. So I like that. That's nice. Um, and so I think that's a nice 4th running back, which in PPR, who knows? I mean, if he has a season like he did last year, that'll be a awful nice 4th running back to have. Strength of this team: wide receiver Jamar Chase, Drake London, Ted McMillan. We like that for Dynasty. We like that for redraft. And then Devontae Adams. Hoping, that he's got another season in him. I think it'd almost be impossible for him to be propped up by touchdowns at the same rate he was last year, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. And then you got, at number 4, Jalen Naylor. That's a question mark. Somebody's going to have to catch passes. It's going to be Trey Tucker, going to be Jalen Naylor, outside of Brock Bowers. Of the wide receivers, who's going to be the number 1 wide receiver? He certainly got paid. And so I'm just curious to see how he does. So your 3 starters are probably the best trio, certainly of dynasty wide receivers, but we're kind of hurting here in the depth. And at tight end, got Tyler Warren. Terrific. This is overall for starters. This team is well rounded out with stars. Tyler Warren, Chase, Drake London, Ted McMillan, Kyron Williams, Walker, Omarion Hampton. I mean, that's a very solid core to the team. And then, we're taking it easy. We're going to TJ Maxx with the quarterbacks here. We're going to get Baker Mayfield and Tyler Shaw. We're gonna get a discount clearance sale, guys. Yeah. You seem to believe in that strategy, so I'll have to wait and see. Fantasy Pros backs you up and says, you're a lock for the playoffs, and you cross your fingers and you hope you did it. And it's a good year, as we said, to go for it all. All right, bringing it to a close. We got a team that may or may not be run by brothers, or it's just called the James Brothers. Makes me think of that old wrestling tag team, the James Gang. It was like the 2 cowboys. They were the James Gang. This is called the James Brothers. And they are predicted as the favorite to win the league by 41% championship. You're a 22%. Coyotes, the third team, is 15%. They're 41. So almost double what they believe you're going to win the championship. They're pretty confident in the James brothers. 99% lock to be in the playoffs. Let's see if we agree with that. Um, yeah, I mean, they got 3 quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, and Daniel Jones. And then you also got Carson Beck, who didn't look too awful in the first meaningless preseason game, playing against third stringers. But I mean, better that he looked okay than looked outmatched. From a dynasty perspective, I'm not sure if I feel super comfortable with Stafford, Prescott, and Daniel Jones. There's so many question marks, but this is redraft, and that's what we're focusing on. So I think Fantasy Pros likes it for that reason. He's got Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, Jalen Warren. Let's see anybody else. Kyle Monangai at number 4. I can see why they like it. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, T. Higgins, Chris Olave, Parker Washington. Is anybody else here? Rashee Rice. Nobody else worthy. And then Trey McBride at tight end. So I guess when you put guys that are going to have a lot of volume, like Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford together, and then you got Trey McBride at tight end, and then at running back you got Bijan, and then you got Derrick Henry. You're not necessarily caring about the future. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, T. Higgins, Chris Olave. Yeah, no, I guess I can kind of agree. This team does look better than all the other teams we've talked about before. It's the most complete team that we've talked about. But this is Dynasty. So is it the most complete Dynasty team? No. Is it the most complete redraft team? Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you there 100%. Definitely the most complete team heading into 2026. Yeah, the production he's going to get. This is a brothers. These are 2 brothers that manage this team. So the production that these brothers will get from quarterback position here it's you know it's as good
Are
as it
they
gets.
are they cowboy outlaw wrestlers?
No,
No, they're not.
no, nope. But no, the quarterbacks they have here, Stafford and Prescott, you're going to get a lot of production in these offenses. So that's those are great quarterbacks heading into 2026. Obviously, you got Bijan Robinson, arguably the 101 in redraft. I've seen Gibbs and Bijan be basically back and forth. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, we've talked about him time and time again. That's about as consistent a player as you're going to get in fantasy football, and then Olave, T. Higgins, McBride. It's just a really, really strong roster. Yeah, I agree. It's the most balanced redraft roster for sure. And I could see exactly why they are the heavy favorite to win the league. It's a good team. It's a really good team. I think they're definitely going to be in contention to win this championship. And what it comes down to is when you get to the playoffs, how are your players playing at that time? Are you healthy? And I think this team has a lot of depth as well. So I think it's going to be it's a good team. They did a really good job building for this season, and I think it'll be fun to watch. It's a strong roster, and yeah, they're going to be tough to beat. They really will.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, we made it. We made it to the end of the first preseason preview show we're doing, and that's going to be kind of the theme for the rest of August. We're going to cover different leagues that we participate in or that need a preseason preview. So that's what will be coming up in the next few weeks. So thanks for listening, listeners in Elite Primetime. And next week, we'll get to that show when we get to it. I think it'll end up being probably one of the leagues that I run. It's just a question of which one. So
Well,
be on a lookout on your group me.
I will
But
correct you quick. Next week we actually are doing a mock draft.
oh,
We're
that's
gonna cover a
right.
mock draft, redraft mock draft. We're not gonna do the draft during the show. We're gonna do the draft on a different day during this week. We'll do a draft. We'll get as many people as we can to join it. Hopefully, we can get all 12. I think we might be able to. And then we'll cover that draft. We'll go through the results, and that'll be our show next week.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. These shows, there's a lot of talking. So, covering the redraft, mock draft, I think that'll be good to see who's going where, and hopefully the sleeper bots play better than they did last time. But yeah, thank you to everybody that listens. Thank you. Appreciate it. Please rate our show, give it a like, give it a comment, do all those things. Follow it if you choose to. Yep, we had our bye week last week, so thanks again for listening, checking back in. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll let you close it out for us, Weapon X.
Yeah, definitely fun time recapping this league. It should be a fun league, pretty competitive. We went through the teams. It's yeah, it'll be a fun league. Definitely a fun league. Looking forward to the mock draft next week and just getting closer to the season. We're closing in. It's been a fun off season, but we're getting there, and the season will be here any day now. So looking forward to it. All right, everyone, have a great week.